Dear participants, let us start. Now, we're not going to wait for Pavel. Hopefully, he'll arrive within 10 minutes and join us. Good afternoon. I'm happy to welcome you at our roundtable of the Moscow Exchange. My name is Yana Tarasova. I'm an economist, a sophisticated investor, financial analyst, and presenter at RBC channel. And I'm happy to introduce our influencers, our guests, experts, Andrzej Arshavsky, who is the Managing Director on Managing Data Monetization of Moscow Exchange. Alexei Tishin is an architect of Sovcombank. He is going to join us remotely today. He's not in Moscow now, regrettably. Nazar Shchetenin is a private investor. Sergey is the director of the information terminal of Moscow Exchange. Irina Grekova is the manager of Compliance of Moscow Exchange, and Daniil Kashirin is the general director of ProCompliance LLC. And we're also going to wait for Pavel Solovyev, who is the manager of information services of Moscow Exchange. Today, we gathered the experts today, and the topic is hot and bulky. It is called financial technologies, and namely financial data in the marketplace, technologies, and customers. When it comes to making financial decisions for institutional investors, it requires large data arrays. We plunge into the analysis of the need to explore the opinions of experts and specialists, and then we'll make the decisions. Everything is resting on the scale of interpreting the facts and current news bulletins and events. It's an open secret that financial data are triggered by the development of institutions, and trust underpins all that. Regrettably, it has plunged over the past years, and now we're losing it. I mean, the trust to the financial data. There is a gap between the data received by professional experts of the market and the ones received by investors, physical persons who do not have enough capacities for getting access to authoritative data. I would like to start with Andrzej. The floor is yours. Good afternoon once again. Tell me, how has the demand for financial data and data in use changed in Russia? How has the market and its structure altered? Yes, thank you very much for your question. Actually, the market has changed dramatically over the past years. I'll provide some figures. For example, the share of physicists has soared from 40 to 80%. And currently, it has changed from month to month, from year to year. It's a very significant modification. The number of active customers who take part in the transactions over the month and over the year has grown from 2 million from 3.6 million. It's also considerable. When it comes to the large area of data, it has grown from 1 trillion to 5 trillion. It was lower 1 year ago, and it is a little bit lower than 2 years ago. But when it comes to data comparison, it is approximately 3 million trillion. And the number of transactions, when it comes to monthly amounts, the number of transactions executed over the past month has increased from 100 million to 200 million. The investment activity is witnessed, and it has skyrocketed. There are changes in the activity in terms of the physicists. It comes to monetization of the amounts. And when it comes to these trends, we also witness them both in Russia and abroad. And the demand for the qualitative data is also growing when it comes to physical individuals. There is a shift towards the qualified experts who are ready to make the decisions. This is related to mass private investors and professional experts and participants. We're also aware of the fact that there is a shift in the offer of information products and data products. This is attributed to the events of the previous year. Some participants have withdrawn from the market, and the Russian manufacturers of financial technologies are now launching their new products. They're inventing them. When it comes to customers and professional investors, there's the only method of consuming data. They had to switch from the previous tools to new ones, and often do they use a myriad of these vehicles. This impedes decision-making because we switch from one interface to the other one. And it also sorts logistics, purchasing, to name a few. As pertains to the data for making decisions, there is also a shift, and we also trust. There are different levels of trust to the opinions of our experts. It is related to market manipulation and handling, and there are some other activities evidenced. By and large, the customers need high-quality data for decision-making. They are going to make them online on a swift basis. They get them from a small number of sources.
Because it is always very difficult to manage different interfaces. As to the information related to decision-making for the long-term period, always is related to the analysis of the reference data of the corporate reporting. And the access to the reporting, and by the way, not all kind of reporting is published. As to the corporate reporting, the interpreting of this reference data is available only to the professional players and only to limited extent. And if we talk about the available information, clear information, the demand for such information is growing. As to an individual investor, it is very important to select a correct portfolio, correct investment strategy. And in this case, he has to switch from the data from brokers, maybe from several brokers, and to the information channels and services. This makes the investment activities very difficult. And due to this, quite a lot of individual players remain very inert. They buy some shares and they stay with them. And in order to somehow urge individuals to play more actively in the market, it is necessary to give them the information. This is the key to higher activity, higher actions from the individuals. And also we are talking about the algorithmic traders. There are professional traders who trade in very short period of time, and also there are algorithm traders who are trading just in seconds or minutes intervals. So the traders are different, and for all of them, different information services are necessary with different flow of tools and information. And this structure is changing to higher frequency levels. And if we talk about the individuals, they sometimes make transactions once in 3 months, and then they begin to be more active and they begin to trade once a week or even once in several days. And on the other hand, qualified traders are dealing in seconds and minutes. These are the trends, and the Moscow Stock Exchange is now working in all these directions to give the necessary tools to the investors. Indeed, thank you, Andrzej, for your overview. And as to the Telegram channels, indeed, there are lots and lots of participants, and not all of them deserve trust. And now talking about the new technologies, this is the so-called trade radar, and this will be available practically to all. And for the investors, and for me in particular, as I am also an investor, what are the plans for launching this? Is this trade radar be ready before the end of 2023? And what are the concepts and approaches of the users? Well, Andrzej passed actually the floor to Sergey. As a matter of fact, this question was to Sergey, right? Sergey, please answer this question. Well, colleagues, indeed, we are developing this very interesting project. This is information and analytical terminal trade radar. Actually, we in online form we can check it and test it at our stand at Finapolis, and indeed you can believe that it is very interesting. So far, we have collected quite a lot of feedbacks, and we are still collecting it, and we see very clearly that data sets of different kind are very interesting for the participants, for the market players, and those who come to us with the comments, they recommend to improve this or that a part of the trade radar, and it is quite clear that those who trade in bonds, their interests will be quite different from the traders working in other parts of the market. In general, if we look at the industrial history, there are two main demands. First of all, a protected compliance chat, or as an environment for the negotiations and the deals. And it is very important that the trading participants trust this platform so that they could understand that the data is protected there. And the participants should also be sure that if the data is lost, and it can happen, it happens sometimes, still these participants can regain these data sets and this information, and it is possible to contact an operator and to get the information that certain negotiations and certain transactions and deals had taken place. So this is our functionality, and we will concentrate on this. And the second story, which is quite close to the topic of our panel today, these are the data and its quality. And here, our mission has to do with the activities of the professional participants of the financial markets. They should have reliable data and can analyze it. And for this, we have inserted into our terminal giant data sets, mostly from the Moscow Stock Exchange, a national trading center, and the national other stock exchanges. And we are open for all suppliers of data and analysis and analytic data. We've already seen the feedbacks from our clients. For example, we have an information ticker line. Recently, we've got a new data set from one of the biggest banks, Gazprom Bank, with the forecast of the macroeconomic indicators. This is also a very interesting data set. And also in our pipeline, we have planned a whole set of stories like this. Talking about the data, of course, we are interested in unique, high-quality data. An example is, and I can announce it, a recent project that we've started this year, the Information Analytical Center on the basis of the Moscow Stock Exchange. And this department works on the indicators of the commodity markets. It covers quite a wide range of indicators, including oil products, gas, metals, agricultural products, etc. And these data sets are very interesting. You can see, for example, prices, retail prices for gasoline in any point of the Russian Federation. And one more point that I would like to dwell upon is a big demand from the market, whatever strange it can seem. This is the processing and filtration of the news flow. Everybody receives news, but yes, indeed, it is very, very important because there are lots and lots of news. So the issue is to receive this information from a reliable source, and the second task is to sort it out. Because if I am a trader working with Gazprom papers, with Gazprom products, then everything is first of all, I'm interested in everything related to the sector, and in the second priority, everything related to the macroeconomic data. So my task is to put one upon another the news and how this news influences the prices. So this is the second sphere of activity for us, and we have to provide filters and the easy approach to compose and compare the data. So we can talk quite a lot about it, but I would like to stop here. Sure, we will get back to you. And first of all, taking into account that this news information chases us all the time. And now talking about the architecture, I would like to make a question to Alexei Tishin. Alexei, good morning. If we want to make a presentation to my question, if we talk about the regional players, we are talking about the access to the high-quality information. They don't have it, but they have funds to pay for this. So how Sovcombank works with this, and how we can provide this information to individual players? Well, I would like to confirm your positive approach and the positive approach of other speakers. Despite the transformation that we have passed through when foreign players had left the Russian market, nevertheless, we have the access to the information, to the data, and there are no unsolvable issues. And if we talk about the individual's interests, the access to the information definitely is not equal. We should divide individuals into several groups. There are active players and active traders who can get support from the professional. There are also individuals who work quite professionally with their portfolios, and in general, if we take the information in general, then if we want to calculate the profitability, then we can go to Google tables, etc. So all tools are available. The only thing is to know where they are.
There is also a mass segment, which is individuals. They trace the alternative to a deposit, for example, and definitely the broker applications of banks are applicable in this case. I mean, the website of MoX and the website of MoX, they broadcast some data. I cannot state that these data are incomplete. Sometimes we have sufficient data, sometimes we lack data. When it comes to broadcasting data in effects, it also varies, but all this data are lacking for making weighted and justified decisions. They are not substantiated enough. I may provide a simple example without announcing the issuer. when it comes to issuance of the terminal of Moscow Exchange, the yield voiced is 9%, and as for the calculator and the same prices, the yield is 16+%. And how can individuals assess that? How can they estimate these calculations? And which of these figures may be applicable for decision making? Well, here the request is crystal clear with respect to individuals and issuers. Everyone needs transparency and fairness, and the issuers are cautious about disclosure of data. They started doing it several months ago, and in the past, all the investors were removed from this data. They were far from that, and I would like to figure out more information about private investors. What matters for them in terms of retail investors? Nazar, you act as a conductor for and a guiding person for investors, for retail investors. Which demand do they have with respect to the circumstances? What do you accentuate? That's a good question. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I would like to focus on sub-technologies because some people sell these products. Maybe this will be frustrating, but market data are taken for granted on a regular basis, because that's why I'm not going to announce the name of it. But there is a demand for interpretation. There is no demand for real data, for market data, but there is a demand for understanding, for the news. The Gazprom yield is 4%, and what does it actually mean? How can this be interpreted? If someone says that it's not in favor of ours, taking a look at the history of it, this has to be handled. There was a claim laid from the issuer when it comes to the demand for Telegram channels. You may just dwell upon the data of 200 issuers who publish the quarterly reports on an annual basis, on a monthly basis, or on a quarterly basis. As for the context, the ones who publish them on a regular basis and disclose their data, they are in demand, and they are acclaimed by others. Some of them talk about profits on a regular basis and have quarterly spreadsheets in Excel. There are 20 to 30 names, and they contribute to that. And that's the real case. I meant just monthly data. There is no demand for raw data, but there is demand for interpretation. Interpretation envisages a particular method. You may just justify this data. You may provide a rationale why it is not for good. In some cases, a method should underlie this. It was believed that, for example, this model was awarded the Nobel Prize, and it was a robo-advisor which was in charge for that. But what we need is a method, a technique, and interpretation. They will underline that, and personal preferences also matter. For instance, this person resembles me, and that's why that's the product of choice. And all of this attracts the people's attention. No one is going to dig deep into the revenue of developers, which may be acknowledged after issuance of housing. It is presented in the applications at any banks. There may be a declared revenue, but it may differ. You may be guided by managerial reporting and documentation, and this information may even be hazardous in some cases. When it comes to the first person of the developer, they may provide some data on revenue, and you can't even understand that you are being cheated at this moment. That's the specificity of the industry. This also holds true for skyrocketing assets of the companies which are operating in the retail segment. That's attributable to the fact that IFRS standards have changed. They have been amended, and for this reason there are some changes, and private investors are not going to dig deep into that, and that is why the interpretation matters. You also mentioned Gazprom. At some point, Gazprom started focusing on capitalization. It's not of interest for investors, and they have these securities in the portfolio because it's the popular blue chip, and everyone should own it. And accordingly, Gazprom is focused on the governmental issues. There are some challenges. They may be settled, but from the technological standpoint, you have a long-standing background in terms of retail investors. You have started working in this field recently, and you used to work in giant companies. Can the data be delivered from the technological standpoint with a small threshold of entrance for the investors? And I mean the information which is available for a limited number of participants. It's the opportunity to refer to the industry, to resort to it. Thank you. I used to work in IX and I purchased data approximately 5 years ago. I dealt with market data. I got an IP per million per month, and it was free of charge. I just called them, and then everything was verified. And some people checked this data. They checked this data, and they fully coincided. And one and only call was enough. And then I worked there for a while, and it took several months of them to pay $500 for a request. They used a gradual approach, and I caught up with them and I tried to monetize this product, to test it. I was not going to quit. That's why it was a quick and striking process. It was truly cool. I believe that that's exemplary. But this role model hasn't been applied in Russia yet. And Moscow Exchange is also digging deep into this area. We have to provide the unity model, especially for beginners and those who are interpreting this data. Actually, we lack market data, fundamental data, which allegedly have to be harvested on a regular basis. And this is also specified in the law. This should be available because there is no point in including all this data in Excel spreadsheets. We need data, we need documentation related to interpretation, and it's truly demanded. And as for Excels or websites, there may be a wide range of data over the past 10 years, and this is to be applicable, except for those who haven't tried to monetize them. They may also be less strategy and they lack this data. And the ones who do not have experience will not deal with that. It is aimed at private investors. The reporting is similar to Bloomberg's one, and that's in favor for us. And it's on the qualified basis, and we also have to sustain the private investors. As for the IT experts, they are eager to find a voluminous formula, and they're going to build a service and to invest their efforts and funds. They're ready to invest their efforts into that, and they'll go the extra mile and to take 500 rubles to launch it in the stock market. In this case, we'll get more services, and this will result in an ambitious project, for example, Focus or something else. These resources are impressive, they are high quality, and their coverage is also significant. They have grown, but in the very beginning, we should prop them up in the very beginning. Traditionally, they used to sell some raw data which were not processed. They earned funds thanks to collocations, protocols, and other high-tech services. And this year, we're moving from this unprocessed data to the information. These data are packaged, and we are now eager to bolster them and to assign them to different customer categories. As for ProfRadar, they are aimed at professional participants. As a principle, these information services, which are assigned for the market from the broad perspective, are data shards. We are now developing this expertise. I mean the marketplace of information services and data. The first product is ready. We will announce it in the foreseeable future. That's the flow of data for algorithmic data. These data are processed. They will be gratuitous. And there will also be some signals. The algorithm will also be included. That's all we necessitate. there are some other tools and vehicles for issuers, large-scale investors and brokers. It's kind of an aggregate service. That's an open platform. We're willing to invite the developers and startup companies there. They are ready to establish their products and to place them in this marketplace. It will be user-friendly because they'll use several wallets, and their wallets will encompass different products. We're now moving in this direction. We're cooperating with compliance, non-compliance, and Interfax. That's the open platform. And Pavel is going to describe it more thoroughly. Yes, we are waiting for him because this discussion will be kind of incomplete without his presence. And now we're going to switch to Daniil. He'll talk about the artificial intelligence and the technologies which will assist us in dealing with large amounts of data. But first and foremost, I would like to ask a question to Irina. Is there any problem for compliance, and is there any challenges, and how can they be settled, and are they typical now?
Thank you for your question. I would like to say that along with the business part of the stock exchange, we provide the support, regulatory support, and depending on this, this affects the costs of the final product. And we, as a compliance department, we have special responsibilities in front of the regulator. First of all, we have to use the different data to improve the anomalies and the distractions. And colleagues have said that quite a lot of new investors are at the stock exchange, and many see the incompliance. If it is just young men analyzing the reporting, this is one thing. But at the same time, with these activities, they can somehow incentivize unaccustomed and inexperienced traders. And our task is to use different patterns of behavior and to review these groups of traders and to streamline the behavior, because one of the tasks of the stock exchange is to maintain the trust, the culture of trust. Because if an investor comes to a stock exchange and loses all his money because he has followed a so-called guru from the Telegram channel, and this regulatory trend has been constructing itself for more than 10 years, and we understood that when we face an inflow of the individual traders, and quite a lot of vendors have left. So it is quite important to provide the compliance on behalf of the traders. The regulatory approaches are changing, and from our side, it is necessary to is not very correct to spend money on the regulatory, but not the support to the client. And our task is to provide a safe and optimized trade in the stock exchange. And our approach is, first of all, to give priority to the so-called focus customers. We had quite a lot of regulatory approach before, and now we decided to introduce a new compliance tool. This is a service available to our participants and to the bank and to the banks, and a compliance officer will see all opportunities to implement regulatory requirements so that the regulatory costs would be reduced. As long as this service is developing, as Andrzej mentioned, we are going to prepare some data shop products, and this will allow to the investors and to the brokers what is available and what is not available for trading. We are talking not about the qualified investors, but also about the limitations and restrictions related to specific papers and stocks. And everybody knows that there is a number of specific measures, and there are some tools and some vehicles that are not available to all the investors. So all this information will be available just in one place, and as long as we are developing our possibilities and capacities, we will share this information. Our main task is to make the market more transparent, cheaper, and it is not a secret that the regulatory costs are growing from year to year, and we have to give support to the investors and provide high-quality data from the point of view of compliance, safety, security, and the auditors, and it will be possible to see certain scam risks and fake risks from fraud risks on behalf of the personnel of a certain broker themselves. And next year, we are going to open a new task force, and within this task force, we are going to analyze in compliance and fraud practices, and we're going to place all this information at our website so that to prevent this infringements. And this will help not only to prevent this fraud approaches, but also to give the correct information to the customers, and will not allow to the fraud dealers to involve more people. Yes, indeed, the investment climate has to support trust, but I believe that everybody here would agree that the final decision is taken by the customer himself. Whatever the services you provide, a customer should understand that all risks are on his behalf. And as to the technology, Irina, Daniil, well, Irina was speaking about services, but now how technologies are impacting this and how they can protect the customers, the users. Good afternoon. Thank you for your question. First of all, a few words about the concept. What is the compliance tool and how it is implemented, and what is in the basis? First of all, let us understand that compliance tools is kind of a store of compliance decisions and solutions. You can buy certain models, and you will be told that this or that behavior is not quite complying with the requirements. And also you can go to the web interface, to a cloud solution, and you will see a very nice and quite telling picture where which explains everything in plain language, where you can get the statistics and you can start investigation. All this is implemented on the basis of the open source technologies, and it is important to mention that all this structure is cloud-based, and due to this the cost of these services is not very high. It makes compliance quite available, because as of today this level of compliance and monitoring is affordable only for the big players, and smaller players have to implement some simpler solutions with lower quality. Well, as to our tools, everything will be based on the Moscow Stock Exchange, and because it is tested, has been tested many times for fraud and for robberies, electronic frauds, and it is important to mention also that in the basis of this technology is supported by the artificial intelligence. The models themselves are built with machine learning, and the AI allows to assess these models from the point of view of the risk, so that an investor should pay attention to this first of all, and to other factors in the second order. So we can prepare the draft investigation, we can add some necessary proofs, and we even can prepare a draft final decision. So finally, it is a human that takes the decision. He checks all the draft documents, but the use of the artificial intelligence allows to save quite a lot from the point of view of compliance, dozens of times. And this is our technological solution, our core and our advantage. And there is also a small problem, an issue that an artificial intelligence is not yet able to process big volumes of information. For example, let's take ChatGPT. If you ask what will happen to the Russian stocks in the second part of next year, it will not be able to answer. So what is the AI aspects and what are the advantages? Well, I am a part of the traditional academic school, and one of the tasks is the so-called the Holy Grail task. And if we want to forecast the development of different processes, then we understand that it is influenced by a big number of indicators. And maybe Andrzej could add something within this topic. Andrzej, would appreciate very much if you could tell us a few words about the distribution and the availability and the usefulness of this information. Yes, indeed, the generative models have done a breakthrough, and now everybody tries to apply these models everywhere, including the finance sphere. If we take as an example generative models in Sber, in Yandex, and other platforms, so their idea is to create a so-called financial assistant, and including some services of forecasting. I don't think we will be doing this at the Moscow Stock Exchange, maybe in the far-fetched as a far-fetched prospect. What we can do is to try to create a financial assistant. And if we are talking about the channels like Data Shop, Vision, etc., and we want to implement a financial assistant in all these channels, so that this financial assistant will be available everywhere, and doesn't make sense to ask the question, what is the price for certain stocks, but as to Prime or GigaChat or other neural networks, there are some attempts to teach them to give answers. We have already certain experience, and I think in the future it will be easier for investors to ask questions. And maybe they will be able to ask even more complicated questions, not simply a price for certain stock, but to ask to calculate the exchange, the rates of certain stocks in the future. Well, and I would like to add the following. What will happen to ruble rate? Well, we are not analytics of the BKS investment. This is the joke. But the idea is that we can use artificial intelligence for taking decisions. Just tell me, what are new services in the company?
Yeah.
There are two directions I would like to focus on the exchange rate. One of them was launched this year. There are two key directions. The first one is the shop. That's the working name, but it is approximating the target one. It's kind of a store or a platform. It's an information platform which will bring together different services. They are oriented at different categories of participants. There are retail and other segments. And there is also a market region, a channel which targets the private investors. As for when starting with private investors, here our goal is to satisfy specific needs in the information coverage. And first and foremost, we're going to solve the issue of establishment and analysis of the information investment portfolio from the actual data. There will be some semi-automatic loading of these reports. It will be executed by the brokers who get that. There are some tools and vehicles, and then not all available in the market. They will be included in the portfolio. They will do it manually. There will be the manual evaluation of the entire portfolio. But that's the primordial functionality which we're thinking of. And we're also going to upgrade the environment based on the market patterns. If we shape a portfolio, which resources are available and which tools should be included in the portfolio, how will they affect the portfolio performance? There are some search and screening tools, smart search tools. They will also be applicable. We're also thinking of launching these smart assistants in this domain. We're going to easily handle this application and will target the new generation of emerging investors in order to expand our coverage. They will be equally remoted. We're not focused on promoting particular services and will also disclose as much data as possible. That's the application. And this application is a challenge for the stock exchange because that's not the direct customer of the stock exchange, but we are including the key information and the basic content, and we're going to foster this toolkit with our partners in terms of the information influx. And we also have room for applying the technologies of artificial intelligence. And apart from smart assistants, we'll also use data processing tools such as screeners and searching tools for big data handling. But this will be feasible in the long run. Photoshop is a tool which is oriented at the professional segment. It is specific, but it will also enable other categories to enter it. I mean, the categories which are emerging in the market. And despite the current situation, there is an influx of new participants, namely the startups, which are introducing the niche products. There are also some data which are truly sought after. They are adhering to a common approach. There are some market data and pre-processed data which are tailored to particular categories. There's a pack category in the Photoshop. The launch is due this year. That's the product which targets algorithmic traders. It's going to be shaped. The prototype is available, and there are some pre-estimated data aimed at built-in algorithms and mechanical trade systems. That's our key class algorithm of trading processes. That's the first part. As pertains to the second part on which we're elaborating, we're going to launch the prototype by the end of the year. I mean the development the signals, alarm signals for extraordinary market events. There may be a leap in volatility and liquidity based on the threshold values set by the users. And will these alarm signals be charged? Most services are chargeable, but we're going to combine free data and other data which are oriented at the services. It depends in our case. And some of them target particular categories of our participants. We'll have a pool of our services on the whole. And also, we're going to build a platform for fostering new partnership solutions for startups. I mean, the platform for input data. Extra methods may also be deployed for integration. I mean, such the generators of these products, they don't have to get distracted to routinary activities, and there will be some creative, smart products, and then we'll promote them via data shop. Yes, Nazar was listening to you very carefully, and he even grabbed his hat several times. Nazar, we are taking part in the discussion. Would you like to add something with respect to service development? Could I also make an interruption and make a comment later on? Yes, I think I'm also aware of the content of your future words, but now let us listen to Nazar. Why are you embarrassed in this case? Perhaps you're eager to add something else, and then I'll get back to you. No, I'm not embarrassed, but we have to get acquainted with you because I'm listening to this presentation for the second time as of today. That's the identical product. No, we're talking about the same product. Yes, I was talking about this same topic, the same product, but Pavel did not attend us. Yes, he wasn't present yet. And by and large, all I asked is that, and I complained about it a little, and then you joined us a little bit later, and it is a pleasure to listen to you. Presumably, we'll listen to it more carefully. Eventually, you have joined us, but let us think of the business model. We're not going to nip it in the bud. Yes, as for the business model, each and every product will have a free version and it will be beneficial at once. Any product will be beneficial and notwithstanding the absence of extra payments. The basic configuration. As for chargeable configuration, there will be kind of a promised payment. You'll enter it, you'll use more upgraded chargeable versions. If you enjoy it, you may keep using it, but then you'll pay for it in a while. If you don't enjoy it, you'll neither pay for it nor apply it. We're going to demonstrate high level of flexibility to the market so that it could take advantage of it. It may be palpable and then chargeable. Yes. There's also a suggestion. There are some wonderful models by Travels and Pacom Company. They're present in Europe and in the USA. That's the next step of developing these infrastructural solutions. You are now catching up with your colleagues. Hopefully you're not offended by this fact. And the next stage is execution. We have to look for a broker. I was listening to a forum. What you need is an infrastructural broker. Then you'll get the IP, you have the data available. You also have the compliance tool available. Order routing, execution, and pre-trade will take place in the market. I've recently communicated with people who are working with Rebels, and they've launched their own application, and it is customized to our guys, the ones who we are trading for, those who we are trading with. And there are some classical issues under the hood, be it stock exchange and other items. That's what we truly need. Our Arab colleagues have developed it, and that's how it should look like. Everything should target our guys. I mean, our guys, our local guys, and it will be a cool solution. As for Nazar, your feministic approach is still the same. As for Alexei, we discussed the approach of Bank in the sidelines. Here are the services you are developing, and there's an initiative to launch an app store application in the future. Alexei, please tell us about your idea, your concept, and if it is not a non-disclosure agreement for you. I'm not going to voice it, but that's why I'm going to digress from the main topic. Nazar is a proponent of individuals, and as for statistics, the number of physical persons has increased from 40 to 80%. There are some available data, but being a physical person, I tried to explore the data which are available for physical persons. And on the one hand, we should complement Moscow Exchange for this data. This may be paid for and introduced within a date, and thus we'll get access to market data. And as for publishing and issuing this data, there is no public data for scheduling that, and for this calculation, we need a chart to schedule rather than the artificial intelligence. And there are no data in the public space. And I said it thanks to the support. I asked the same question, and I got the following reply then it's not available, they do not support it, this may be turned off. But in fact, as for Moscow Exchange, we may get the schedule with all the lines because they lack some items. And as for other market participants, PUF and so on, they do not cooperate with individuals. And if we try to perform this process and to arrange access to this information via legal entities, the monthly payment, the average monthly payment of will coincide with the portfolio of an average physical person in the market. We'll have to pay this sum of money in order to get this data. That's, on the other hand, we have 3,500 bonds on the Moscow Exchange, and it's very hard to scrutinize 3,500 issuing documents. But on the whole, it's the standard routine practice for GTP chat and models. It's not that costly. It's not that costly to get this information, but we need funds, and we would like Moscow Exchange and other market players to provide access to this basic data. And based on this information, we'll be able to estimate the pricing, and this will be attributable to the key events, to the landmark events from the schedule. We personally have access to this data, and we perform calculations. And there is also an in-house initiative to publish a reference manual on bonds. There will be a reference book where all the data will be presented, as including the calculations on the related to landmark events from the schedule, and it will match the educational function. We're not going to uplift the threshold of entrance to the market of securities. We should provide the data which will undergo this comparison. That's the initiative which has already been launched, and we hope that it will reverberate in our investors' minds. But raw data don't even seem to be truly available. And Nazar would also like to make an addition to Alexei's words. Nazar, as for the technologies and the functions for retail investors, what would you like to say?
I would like to add the following. We've been talking about linguistic models, while at the same time I just recalled disclosure today. What kind of scans can be used? Have you seen a scan in Aeroflot? It is simply distorted, and we have a very beautiful taxonomy in XBUL. And I remember that some 5 years ago there was an initiative to transfer the information only online, to forget about the printed paper. And the stock exchange is a very nice place to raise a hand and to say, we are ready to storage your data, and we can storage all your events. Let us put here the fundamental things, and along with disclosure, we can do everything. First of all, this database will be available. They will be able to sell it free at low price, then maybe a little bit more expensive. And we've been talking about ChatGPT. At the same time, we're talking about the documents. Indeed, this is Stone Age. And along with raw data, there are colleagues here from NRD, and this will be the implementation of an idea that in just one place there is a big amount of data available, and you come to a data shop supplier and you can get a whole range of different services. Well, I'm very glad to hear that you are participating in all this big approach, and you are participating in this. First of all, the Moscow Stock Exchange, and I hope that the Sovcombank also will issue their bonds and will release very open information for trading. Indeed, confidence and trust is very important for the customer. While an artificial intelligence and the integrity of the market is just supporting factors. And I hope that the artificial intelligence will be an assistant, and it is important that the Bank of Russia is supporting this idea. I believe that everybody has left the report on the development of the financial market in 2023, 2025, and a big stake is put on the AI. We are following the Western platforms. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for being with us.